Hi everyone, good afternoon. Can you guys hear me? Just respond with a quick yes in your chat box. Hello? Can you guys hear me? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Okay, thank you. I'll just start the session once we have more participants. Sure, sounds good. I think we have joined this live feed. Hi guys, good afternoon. Just respond with a quick hi if you can hear me loud and clear. Hi guys, good afternoon. Manmeet, should we just wait till 2:35 and then start? Okay. Hi guys, can you hear me? Just drop in a quick hi so that we know. A very good afternoon to everyone. Hi Karan, can you hear me? Just drop in a quick hi. I think we have a lot more people joining in now. So we'll just wait for a couple of minutes. Let your other friends also join in and start at 2:35. Okay, superb. I think a lot of you are confirming that you can hear me loud and clear, but I can still see some dropouts. So I guess that it'll take some time to for things to stabilize. I'm just going to set some expectations here. Yeah, sure, Manmeet. I'm just going to set some expectations here. Let me type that in the chat box so that all of us are aligned with that, and anybody who joins, at a later point in time, can know the expectations beforehand, just through a quick look at the chat box. Hi everyone. I think it's 2:35. Time to start. A very good afternoon to all of you. I'm Siddharth Sawan, and I'm from the 2014 batch of SIBM Pune. I did my MBA in marketing, and prior to that, I did my engineering from the University of Mumbai from the batch of 2009. And after my MBA, I've been with Mahindra and Mahindra Limited for over 5 years now, and in various roles. In 2.5 years in field sales uh, across Bangalore, Mumbai, I used to manage teams up to 8 people. I used to manage a P&L in the western region of India. I also have done a very detailed role in strategy. That's where I am right now. I also manage sales and marketing for this brand called Glide, which is Mahindra's latest ride sharing initiative. So that's something about me. I've been training students at SIBM Pune and across various schools. I've taken some sessions for your friends. I'm guessing that some of you would have already been interviewed by me or would have got your HR answers checked by me previously a few days ago. And I am also on the selection panel of certain B schools. So that's something about me. I am guessing that there's no challenge in terms of hearing things and that the net is working fine and you guys can just hear me loud and clear. So now that we have a quick introduction, we start off with sales and business development. So that's the topic that I'm going to cover today. And I'm basically going to cover things on what happens in the industry after you graduate. I'm guessing that some of you would have probably done sales roles prior to you joining the B school. However, I mean, you would probably have some idea, definitely. Once you graduate from your B school, obviously the responsibilities that you have increase. And that is what I'm going to highlight in today's session. I'm also going to focus on business development. So, so that is an aspect that is very subjective to each and every organization and very contextual. So, business development in one organization or one context may mean something totally different compared to others. So, I will try and shed some light on that as well. In sales, we will speak about B2C and B2B sales. And I expect you guys to take down notes when I'm speaking, and we'll do the Q&A session. So the last half an hour is going to be Q&A, and so the Q&A session can be done on chat. I'll give you guys 5 minutes, and then we keep answering the questions like the first five, next five, and so on. I'm guessing that's okay with you guys, right? Does that sound good? We'll keep it interactive. At least have something being typed in the chat box. Okay, superb. Thank you so much. So I'm guessing that you would have already gone through sales and distribution as a subject in your second year or your first year semester or the third trimester. So, how does it really work in the real world? I'll speak about, so how I'm going to structure my session is I'll be speaking about B2C sales first, then B2B sales, then I talk about category management and digital and online sales. These are roles that are increasingly becoming more important today with the Amazons and the Flipkarts and the Zomatos of the world. uh, how the lines are actually getting blurred between B2C and B2B. So that is also something that I'm going to speak to you about, because earlier we could categorize something as out and out B2C and something as out and out B2B, but it's very very contextual. Depends on the industry. Depends on what are you at the end of the day, what are you actually selling. So it's very subjective. Like I told you earlier, business development, what it is, how is it similar to and different from sales. So when we talk about B2C sales, generally it's a product that is either being sold to or is being consumed by at a very large scale. Uh, when I talk about scale, again, it's going to be geographical scale and also in terms of volumes. And it also is, a product that is consumed very, very, at a high frequency. That can be the case. So that's what I classify as a B2C sales. So something very common like a toothpaste or a bottle of Coke or maybe an automobile that can or maybe an insurance product. All of that can go into B2C. B2B, when I talk about B2B in particular, it's going to be something like what a Google probably sells a solution to digital agencies, or maybe it's a TCS doing business with some financial major in the US. That's a B2B deal. So that's what that's what my view on B2B is, right? And then I also talk about how lines are getting blurred, right? Because you have a lot of cases wherein you talk about key account management, you talk about B2B to C. If you look at automobiles as an example, or even FMCG as an example, uh, a Britannia or a Coke doesn't really actually sell to you and me directly, right? It eventually sells to a distributor who then sells it to a retailer, or there's a wholesaler channel in between, and so on. So each of these are businesses, and then those businesses eventually end up selling to us. So that's something about B2C. I'm just trying to give an overview here and set the context. B2B, I've already shared the overview. Now, a very interesting thing about category management and digital and online sales. Now, if you look at something like a Flipkart, uh, it's basically a marketplace, right, or an Amazon. So if you're trying to buy a cell phone from Flipkart, it will probably channelize that. It'll take your order and send that order to some intermediary who's going to be, you know, I maybe WS Retail. I'll just take that example, and WS is eventually going to ship that product to you. So category management is becoming increasingly important because the idea or the objective of Flipkart is to basically take more orders and ensure more fulfillment or deliveries of that product. And that is the job of the category manager. If you have read about the product life cycle, you have the stage where there's an introduction, then there's a growth stage, then there's a maturity and decline. A category manager or a product manager or even a brand manager, his or her job is to make sure that the product is consistently in the growth phase. Because when we talk about this graph, it is usually volumes versus time, and it's also profitability versus time. And the profitability is generally least when it's there in the growth stage, subsequently peaks during the maturity phase, right? So product manager's job is to make sure that the volumes are in the growth stage, and yet the product is profitable. And that's also the job of the category manager. So now some very important common concepts that are there, which span across B2C, B2B, and digital and online. So a simple distribution chart of something like a Coke would be the bottling plant to um, maybe a storehouse. Then, if I talk about a sales chart, then it's going to be a bottling plant, which is going to be a P&L. Then it's going to go to a distributor, from a distributor to say a wholesaler, then to a retailer, right? Uh, what we need to understand over here is that these businesses operate at scale. You will probably have a bottling plant which serves maybe Mumbai region per se, just for Mumbai region, where you have more than 1.5 CR population, right? So it's at scale. It all depends on the consumption capacity. What are the market projections, etc., etc. I'll speak about that later. But that's how they basically set up that whole plant. That's how they basically set up the whole distribution chain, right? Generally, distribution is done on the basis of geographies. So you have India as a region, then you have each of the states, which might be independent or which might be clubbed together. Like in most cases, the Northeast, the seven sisters which are there in the Northeast, are generally clubbed together. Uh, Bigger states such as Maharashtra might actually be subdivided by multiple into other divisions as well based on the population. So the next level is subdividing a state. So I'll take the case of Maharashtra. Maharashtra will probably be subdivided into Western region, Central region, then Vidarbha and North Maharashtra, and so on. Within this, you have small areas such as Mumbai, then you have Pune, then you have each district, right? Maybe a Raigad district or so on. And this is very very important because this distribution generally is a function of market sizes and consumption patterns, and also what the organization sees as a growing market. They basically forecast that, okay, market A is probably going to grow by 10%, so I'm probably going to put some more resources over here. And if that market is probably, say, going to grow 2x, maybe 20%, then I would probably, and it's a key market for me as well, so I would probably further divide that market into maybe, I'll take the example of Mumbai again. Mumbai is going to grow at 10%, is what is projected. Then they discover in year two and year three that it grows at 20% and 30%. Uh, and this cannot probably be managed just by one person or maybe one distributor or retailer. So what they would do is divide Mumbai into three or four parts. and let each of the distributor handle that kind of volume, right? So that is what these guys do, and each of the distributor will probably have one ASM taking care of him. Uh, it would be that sort of logic which dictates the whole distribution chain. What also dictates the distribution chain is the production. If the company has the resources only to invest in a certain production capacity, they can supply only to certain limited markets or limited volumes. So that is also, and for that you would have to deploy only limited resources. So if that whole thing can be taken care of by one area sales manager, they'll just basically put one distributor under him, or maybe two three distributors under him, and deploy that. So all of this keeps changing and is very very dynamic. And like I told you, it's a big function of the market size and what are the projections and so on. If you have any doubts, do write in over here if you want me to cover anything in depth, so that I can answer that during your Q&A session. B2B businesses actually are structured very differently. A distribution chain for a B2B business, again, is going to be very contextual and very, depending on what the business actually is like. So I'll give you the example of maybe, say, a Google. So Google has offices in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Delhi NCR, and so on. They started off with one in Hyderabad, if I remember. That was many many years ago. Uh, Eventually, you want to be present where your customers are, right? So if you cater to a certain set of customers, say Google is selling to a Microsoft, or maybe Google is selling to a TCS. It does happen, right? Or maybe a Google is selling to the new age startups. You would want to be very close to where they are located. So geographic proximity also dictates that. You might also want to have a limited presence based on what your business plan is, and try and reach out to your clients remotely. That's also possible. You can probably have small sales teams. Generally, what happens in places like in industries like what Google is into, tech, for example, you have an India office, then you have maybe two three satellite offices, and the logic being that you want to be close to your customers. So that's what it is. And the more number of clusters that come up, the more the offices that come up. An excellent example of this is McKinsey. So McKinsey and Company is a consulting firm, right? And generally, what happens is they start off, and consulting is out and out B2B. They consult to companies. So they would want to be present close to where their clients are. So they would probably start off with the New Delhi, and as and when the industries grow, right? So if they want to cater to, say, the government, so they'll probably be present at Delhi. They'll have an office over there. Then they discover that there's opportunity to consult to financial firms. So then they start off an office in Mumbai. Then they further discover that they can consult to automobile firms. So you'll probably have uh, an office in Chennai, which is a big automobile hub, and the Pune automobile hub, which is there, or the Gujarat Sanand area, can probably cater from the Mumbai office. So that's how it really works, and this is generally the pattern in a B2B firm, and that's how it is distributed. Now, sales organization structures. These are very important for you. This is very, very crucial because once you guys join firms, you will. It took me a few months to try and understand how things really work. So I'm just trying to give you that information so that you know how things work, what are the responsibilities and roles of each and every person. So a small territory or a market would, or let me take the example of B2C. Okay, so I'll take the example of Mumbai because that's where I'm based out of, and so Mumbai as a region, right, would probably have one area sales manager, right, and this is for an industry such as FMCG, say Coke. Okay, so an area sales manager, what he would do he or she would do is, make sure that they sell the right amount of goods to the distributor. There's We call it billing and retail. So billing is what you effectively sell to the distributor, and retail is what the distributor further sells to the retailer, and the retailer actually sells to the customer. So they would have to keep maintaining a track of the inventory of various distributors, all of that, manage trade promotions, make sure that the goods reach the distributor and the retailers in time, make sure that there is no stock out. That's like a nightmare situation, right? For any ASM. So because if your customer turns up, you don't want to turn him away by saying कि माल नहीं है बेचने के लिए. So that's generally what an ASM does day in and day out. Uh, and this is what actually takes up most of his or her time. What they also do is try and understand how the competition is working, what are the market dynamics, and ASM's role is extremely critical in the sense that they are the eyes and ears of the organization in that market. I remember I had an exciting time as a territory sales manager. That was an equivalent of an ASM during my first 1 year, and literally, I mean, you guys are going to be the eyes and ears of the market. You tell the firm what the competitor is doing, what are the consumers buying, what are they not buying, what retailers want. um, and there are so many, the volume of work is such that you probably have one distributor, one big distributor, or maybe uh, if your territory is, if you have a lot of products, maybe two or three distributors, and each of them would have their own cycles on buying and selling and money, and what is the working capital that they have in the system, etc., etc., etc. There would be tons and tons of promotions that you would have to arrange on an everyday basis. Make sure that there's stock that is there in the market. I mean, the reason why I'm repeating this is that that's what is going on. That's what is going to happen eventually when you join as ASMs, and that's what you'll be doing day in and day out. It's very crucial to know all of this. Uh, so the ASM eventually reports, in generally in most organizations, to a zonal sales manager or a regional sales manager. You can call it. In our case, it was a regional sales manager, uh, and the regional sales manager basically has a team of maybe about three or four ASMs, and obviously the regional sales manager takes charge of a bigger region and more number of distributors. And here is where there's a slight element of business development that also comes into the picture, because one of the many things that are there is to make sure that the number of retailers or distributors that are selling your product keep growing, right? You want to sell more products in more places. So you very strategically make sure that you onboard more distributors, retailers, keeping in mind that one fellow doesn't poach the other person's territory and the other person's market. So you keep be mindful of that. Now that part is basically business development. I'll cover that when I talk about business development. This is also a very important responsibility of an ASM and a regional sales manager. Generally, it's the regional sales manager or the zonal sales manager who does this. It depends on the type of industry. In FMCG, it will probably be the RSM. In FMCG, telecom, or FMCD, in an automobile sort of a business, it will probably be the zonal sales manager, because the businesses themselves are huge. Like the dealers are like 1,000 crore enterprises by themselves, a lot of them. So it will be done at a very senior level. Um, Above the regional sales manager sits the zonal sales manager or the state head. The state head obviously, like the name suggests, takes charge of the entire state. And here's where an element of strategy actually comes in. So if you look at the operational running around kind of work, it's more or less done by the ASM. uh, the strategic business development and a bit of operational is done by the regional sales manager. Now, when once you become a zonal sales manager or a state head, it is most of it is strategic. So you would have to actually look at budgets. You will be a proper P&L owner. You need to make sure that your cost of goods sold, your revenues, all of them are as per budget. Uh, the smarter ones also make sure that they exceed their targets, obviously. Uh, Also make sure that you onboard enough number of new retailers or new distributors, right? You might also take the chance of, maybe if you have a big distributor, you might also want to give 2 or 3 areas to that person or to that firm, right? So all these decisions are generally taken at the zonal sales manager state head level. And hi. I can see some of you greeting me. Thank you so much. So, above the zonal sales manager and the state head sits the national head. Now, that's a very strategic role, out and out. Obviously, you keep tracking sales on a daily basis, right? Because you keep tracking volumes on a daily basis. Aaj kitna becha, aaj kitna becha. All of you will go through that once you start your work. So that is what it is. Aaj kitna becha. That is a track that is kept. The revenue that comes in is the national head and the zonal sales manager keeps track of these two things. So apart from that, the costs that are associated, one thing that is generally ignored in sales, one doesn't really have a visibility at a very junior level that what is the cost of goods sold. That is generally the job of a zonal sales manager or a national head. Zonal sales manager at a state level, national head obviously at a national level. So the national head will take a call on how many ASMs are deployed, how many RSNs are deployed. Is there any merging of territories that is to be done? This can also be done at the ZSM level, but I'm just trying to give you a view of what my firm used to do. And so merging of territories, merging of states into zones, because if the volumes are high, you obviously further divide, right? So that there is more intensive distribution and there are more resources being put into key markets. However, if the volumes are lower, you obviously want to spend lesser resources, reduce that COGS, right? Cost of goods sold metric that comes in your P&L. So that all of that cost. So how do you do it is basically keep start merging territories. So you might want to merge Bombay and Pune together into one, or at a higher level, if still if the national head feels that the costs aren't justified, then he or she might take the call of merging 2 or 3 states together and giving 2 or 3 states to one person, and maybe reducing the number of ASMs. All of this keeps happening on a regular basis. Plus, several strategic initiatives on how to sell, what are the newest trends in selling, uh, all of those things generally. Um, I mean, when I talk about newest things in selling, there is this big funda that is going on right now in the market called Salesforce transformation, and a lot of these consulting firms are going around selling their Salesforce transformation solutions. So as consumers change their buying habits, the Salesforce also needs to be very aligned to these trends, and that is where at a very strategic level the national head will be involved to, and his or her job is to make sure that they understand the market really well. Of course, pan India. I'm taking the case of India, pan India, and how can these programs be effectively deployed so that their salesperson basically can sell better and volumes are more. So all of these strategic calls, uh, the national head will also take a call on marketing spends overall, the big budgets, right? So if you have one new product that is being launched, like a new soft drink that's being launched, and you probably need 10 CR for that, is what the market is what the field is asking for, right? So the national head might say, okay, no, this is the most strategic product, more important product for me. I'll probably allocate 15 CR for it. I'm just putting some high level numbers right here. So all of these decisions are taken care by the national head. Now there is a system that also runs parallelly called market development or field level marketing guys. That role may also be offered to some of you. And this role basically, what it does is, it's a mix of BD and marketing. So conducting activations on ground, making sure that the marketing budgets and spends are put into the best places so that you get the eventual volumes. Volumes is a very key KRA of this market development person. Not all firms have this market development role. Some of the firms have it, but I feel that it's important for you guys to know what it is. So creating promotions, conducting promotions, and all of that bit, will probably be done by this market development person. And this can be at a branch level or a state level. It really depends on the organization and the industry. So now that I've spoken about sales organization structures and the roles and responsibilities of the people, I'll just talk about one very important concept that is there, which is sales forecasting. Uh, I don't know how many of you have actually done regression, linear regression, logistic regression, time series analysis. I would very strongly recommend you guys to go through that again. If there is any question that comes in your interview, you better be prepared for it. So, sales forecasting is something that is very, very crucial. Very simple question. I mean, every morning as an ASM or an RSM or a ZSM, you will have a call with your superior. There'll be a conference call in which there'll be a question. आज कितना बेचोगे? So all of this is done after your target setting. When you get your targets at the start of the year, which are divided into monthly targets, then at your level, sitting with your boss, you'll be dividing that monthly target into weekly targets, and the weekly becomes daily, and so on. And managing those daily, weekly, and monthly targets is going to be the job of each and every person at each level, right? And this question is going to keep coming, कि आज कितना बेचोगे? So forecasting becomes very, very crucial. Some of the things that are there generally, I can speak about the auto industry. Forecasting in FMCG is a lot more complex and complicated just because of the scale. Uh, what you can do is probably read up on resources online, and I'll also share some after after the session is over. So I have also shared it already with Clarity. They'll probably just forward that to you guys. Okay. So in auto, how it really happens is that auto is a very seasonal sort of a business, and so forecasting it does happen on the last 6 months rolling basis. It happens on that is one variable. Another variable is what were the sales last year? What were the number of new products that were launched? What were the number of old products that were taken out of the market? All of these combined into one nice formula, which is put into her time series regression analysis, and then they come up with a formula. Also, then there is some Indian jugad. This is what my sales planning guy had told me that there's a distributor say who has the capacity of selling only say 400 vehicles, and his target is made 1,000. That is ridiculous, right? I mean, it may not be possible for him to sell 400 or 1,000, right? But your job as an ASM or an RSM will be to make sure that he reaches at least 500, right? So then the targets are set accordingly. So you have to make sure that you keep exceeding these targets and then build the logic on how that whole forecasting is built at your end. So in automotive, how it works is that you have a lot of walk-ins, people who keep walking in and inquiring about your product. You check the number of walk-ins कि अच्छा आज कितने लोग आए, आज कितने लोग शोरूम में आए, आज कितने लोगों ने फोन किया to ask for the product, online inquiries kitne the, all of these things, right? And then you have some data that is built over time. That will be a good thing because your MIS person, there'll be an MIS person at your office who will be collecting this data and sharing it on a regular basis. So your MIS person will keep telling you that in on a Friday in this particular month last year across the years this has been the sales pattern. Now keeping that in mind, it's your job to make sure that you either increase the conversion or you increase the number of people who walk into your showroom, right? So then you keep going back and forth, and that's how the whole forecast is built. It's very data centric, very very data driven, and let me reaffirm that fact that you have to go back and revise your time series analysis and regression. That is how that model is built. You will also once you join and this is for the interview. Once you join the industry, the MIS person will basically guide you on things, with a lot of information, so that it becomes much easier for you to forecast on how many can be done vis-a-vis your target. Okay, I'm not going to go into the depth of the next thing, but the next thing is the key financial terms. Now, this is something that you have to revise at your end. What are the various financial terms that are there? So, once you start doing business, right, working capital becomes a very, very, very crucial aspect because working capital is basically what the distributor invests. I mean, in this context, what the distributor or the dealer will invest on behalf of your company, buying your stock. Basically 100 करोड़ का माल उठाएगा या 10 करोड़ का माल उठाएगा plus you would have some outstanding because he or she would have given credit to the next next entity in the value chain. So you would have given some credit in the to your retailers मुझे कि नहीं मैं 7 दिन के बाद माल बेच के पैसा दे देता हूँ वगैरह वगैरह. So obviously working capital is a very important thing that you should know what it is. I've got an excellent link for this to help you guys understand what it is. The next thing that you need to know what is credit cycles. The next most thing important as an ASM you have to know is how to calculate the distributor or dealer ROI, return on investment. Again, there's a brilliant article that I have. What all of us used to read back in college. There's a blog on that. Um, you know, the distributor or the dealer will add all sorts of costs to show that he or she is not making profits. It's your job to try and understand which cost is correct, which isn't. So, financial terms and ratios become very, very crucial. What is also important for you guys to know is something called as the letter of credit and a lot of terms which are related to uh, logistics because as ASM, it's your job to make sure that the goods reach, from point A to point B in a particular cost. So you might have a sign off on that, or your RSM might have a sign off on that. For example, I'll just give you a quick example. Um, we had agreed that in Mahindra and Mahindra, each truck will take 24 vehicles every time it gets dispatched from the depot to the dealership, right? However, there were times when we needed to bill vehicles, and just in the case of festive seasons, right? You have lesser number of trucks, and some dealer might not need 24 vehicles; he might need 20 vehicles. So how they negotiate with the logistic firms is that per vehicle I'm going to pay you say 2,000 rupees. Okay, so for 24 vehicles it's 24 into 2,000. Now that lump sum, if you order lesser number of vehicles, right? Say 20 vehicles, that number is actually going to change. So it will be 2,000 into 2,400 rather than, So he's going to say, कि चलो मैं 50,000 लूंगा इस trip का, right? Now that bigger amount is basically going to be apportioned over a smaller number. So the cost per unit for the transportation increases. As an ASM or an RSM, it's very important that you keep a track on this number because it's going to come out of your budget. At least not probably at an ASM level, but definitely at an RSM level. And tomorrow, if you don't really make sure that the goods, aren't there's something called as minimum order quantity, right? the goods are lesser than the MOQ, you will have to be answerable on why it will be. And the if it happens on a consistent basis, right, it becomes a big problem. It did happen with one of my dealers who used to keep ordering one and two vehicles, and we would have to club the load. And after a certain point in time, it just became unviable for us to supply vehicles to this guy. And subsequently, we realized that this guy didn't have any working capital, and he shut down. So I can just go on and on sales stories, but that's not the objective of this whole session. I'm just taking specific examples wherever I feel it's necessary, and where I feel, what I feel is important for you guys to know before the interview. So knowing those financial terms, these are just some of the financial terms that are there. Knowing all the financial ratios are very important. The more you know, the better it is for you in the interview. I've got an excellent link that I'm going to share that has a very clear, detailed description of all the financial terms. Also, the link that I spoke about which talks about the dealer ROI, has a very detailed list of financial terms. These financial terms are applicable across the industry in B2C and B2B. Mostly in B2B as well. Few things might be here and there. I see a question from Karan. I don't know if he's online. Uh, Karan's question is, what is the approach when it comes to B2B marketing besides sales? Sure. So, Karan, I'll just answer your question when we talk about B2B. That's where I'm heading right now. Uh, Before I reach to B2B, guys, um, I'm guessing that some of you are about 13 of you. Now we'll talk about the key skills that are required for you during an interview. What are the kind of questions that you guys can actually expect? So you just give me a short break. Let me have a glass of water and rejoin. Okay. So when it comes to the questions and the preparation for the interview, uh, I'm going to take examples from my own interview plus a lot of interviews that I have taken. One is definitely what is the person. There are two things. One is the product knowledge or the industry knowledge. The second thing is the energy level. The third thing is mathematics. So when I talk about industry knowledge, any firm that comes to your college or campus, you have to know what the industry is like. The best source for that is the annual report. I'll just take the case of Asian Paints. A lot of you have mentioned that Asian Paints is an aspirational company for you guys. Uh, I would strongly suggest that you guys open the annual report of Asian Paints and read through the whole management discussion and analysis section, and also through the starting section of the annual report, which talks about the industry, the market, what are the products, what are the constituents that go into paints industry, etc., etc. How the paints industry gets. Why does the stock price of Asian Paints get affected every time the price of crude goes up? There is some ingredient from crude oil which goes into the paint industry. So so all of these basics need to be known on the product side and the industry side. Who are the customers? Most important. If the real estate sector is down, if the overall sentiment is down and the people are not spending so much, it's bound to affect the paint industry. If there is, say, a growing automotive sector, I'm just taking that example because I'm familiar with that. Then there's a high chance that if Asian Paint sells a lot to the automotive sector. It can make more money, right? All of these things you need to know who are the customers, what is the value chain of that industry. Um, this will be asked. So it will be a very simple question that what do you know about the industry? What do you know about Asian Paints? And if you can speak about these few important points, right, have a very structured approach. These are, this is your industry. Um, this is what is the market right now. This is the expected market share, etc. You can cite the source saying that you refer to the annual report or you refer to some trade journals and so on. Then you talk about this takes, these are the various products and these are the top five products in terms of revenue. Then you subsequently go on to the customers. So these are the customers. This segment is growing. Say, I'm just taking the example of B2B, and in the sense, Asian Paints is selling to a lot of real estate firms. And if the real estate firms are growing at, say, the industry is growing at 10%, Asian Paints might be, you know, plus 5%. I'm just taking that example. You'll have to check the exact numbers. And if you cite these particular numbers and instances, right, that leaves the interviewer very, very highly impressed. Because then they know that this person has done his or her research very, very well. So, go through that. So that is one thing on the product side. Uh, on the energy side, yes, I mean, you have to be very, very energetic, enthusiastic. You can't slouch like this or have a very soft voice. I'm just trying to change my tonality so that you know what I'm talking about. If you if you speak like this in a sales interview, hi, hello, my name is Siddharth. I'm from SRB in Pune. Uh, it it would just end right there. You need to be a lot more energetic, show a lot of confidence, have a loud, firm voice, a strong, straight sitting posture, look into the person's eye, and all of this happens, at least for me. I pull it off after a few years, but it comes from very strong preparation. There is no substitute to that. There are a lot of people who can wing it and give gas and all of that, but that approach is very short lived. It's a very tactical approach. You will probably clear the interview, but after that, you're going to get screwed in the industry. So, strong preparation is something that is very important. Have that at the back of your mind. The next thing that will and definitely will come is your understanding of the distribution channel. What I spoke about earlier uh, in my class, and also the distributor ROI. That is sure to happen. There will be a case study where the interviewer will play a distributor and will say that no, I don't want to do this, I don't want to sell this product. How do you do objection handling is very, very, very crucial. So prepare beforehand. What are the common objections that are there? So I'll just talk about a case study over here. We can't do this live, unfortunately. I would have loved to do that, but maybe during the interviews. Uh, Say you're sitting in an interview and you're being asked a question, where your interview is playing a distributor, and you are asked to, you're basically given a pencil and told that this is a new product that the company has come up with, and sell this pencil to us. Something very trivial as that. So preparing for that is going to be very, very important. So you would probably want to uh, ask a few more questions before you start the role play itself on what kind of a distributor he is, where is he located. So if you're talking about a premium pencil in something that in maybe say compared to how you sell a premium pencil in Bangalore, right? Uh, you might just hi. Okay, guys, just a quick check here. I'm so sorry for this. Can you guys hear me loud and clear? If you can just drop a hi in the chat box. Okay, I think one of you has just confirmed. Okay, and Manmeet has also confirmed. Great. So selling a premium pencil in a Jodhpur area is going to be very different than selling a premium pencil in, say, a Bangalore, right? In Bangalore, you might just want to focus on the tech, whereas in Jodhpur, you might just want to make it very, very aspirational, right? Saying that, बड़े लोग ये pencil use करते हैं, something like that. That's something I can take at a high level. Uh, the next question is, uh, why I'm asking you, why I'm informing you this thing, and for you to ask this question is, where the distributor is located and what is his market. Understanding that beforehand is very important for you to craft a sales pitch even to the distributor. You can probably tell him, again in Jodhpur, that there are these, there's this section of your customers who really like aspirational goods. So there's a hype, and from this, from general knowledge, what I know that there are a lot of people from that area in Rajasthan who go to the Gulf, right? And they make a lot of money, right? So these might be the people who actually end up buying that pencil. So you would have to negotiate with that distributor during that role play on those lines. You have to convince him to stock a lot of your pencils. Your boss has given you a target. Say you need to you need to convince him to stock 1,000 pencils. You might probably want to think about how do I convince him to stock 1,500, right? Basis the rational explanation that you give to that person, right? So knowing the market volumes and asking the interviewer all of these questions beforehand is very important, because then the interviewer knows that this guy is asking the right questions. So he or she is thinking in a very structured manner. All of this is very important because it just gives the interviewer a lot more confidence. That this person sitting in front knows his or her basics. So that is one role play that will happen. Uh, Another role play that might happen is on the dealer ROI or the distributor ROI, and that whole article is there in that link that I'll share. So it's quite self-explanatory. I'll not go into that depth, but do practice it beforehand. You'll play a lot with numbers. The interviewer might ask you a lot on credit and outstanding, all of that thing. Uh, the interviewer might also play a case. In fact, this is what we are discussing yesterday with a group of friends. This has happened to me as well, where I went to one of my dealers asking him for money. So the company generally gives goods on credit, right? Whether it's a distributor or the dealer says कि मैं 7 दिन 15 दिन के बाद बेच के पैसा दे दूंगा. This happened to me where I've been to Mysore. I had a distributor and a dealer over there, and this guy just refused to pay, and he kept a revolver next to him, and then he started talking. uh, all of these things, of course the interviewer will not freak you out by saying this, but he or she is going to be very strong in objection, saying that nahi main lunga, and to try and see how you basically respond under stress. So prepare for all of this. Prepare for a stress interview. Read about it when you go. You might also have a panel where you have three people wherein they play the good cop, bad cop, silent cop strategy. Where there's somebody who keeps encouraging you, who's a good cop. Then there is somebody who keeps questioning you, keeps screwing you, if I may use that word. Uh, Keeps questioning each and every this thing, raising an objection just with the objective of putting you under stress. And there is a third person who is just silent through the interview, who just keeps looking at you with a blank face. This has happened to me thrice, and these are very experienced people who have done this. It's a very common interview technique. Okay, uh, please prepare for it that way. Please prepare for stress interviews. Please prepare for objection handling, because objection handling is what you're going and firefighting is what you're going to do once you go in the field. Okay, so know that beforehand, uh, and prepare well for that. So these are the three things that are generally there in a sales interview, right? So product knowledge, energy, and math. And math includes all these case studies and objection handling and all of that, because you'll have to actually rationally explain with numbers to that person. So that covers the whole B2C section, and I think I'm right on time. I'll move to B2B now. I'm also going to cover business development in this section. So, B2B sales. Now, I'll give you the example of McKinsey and Company, because consulting is a firm which is highly B2B, um, or I'm not so sure. If you want me to take another example, just type it over here. Or are you okay with McKinsey? If you're okay, so I'll just tune my session accordingly. B2B products. Okay, I'll take the case of auto ancillary, um, out and out B2B. Let me take a very familiar example